groovy.
Hello and welcome to Spookies Hunting for History. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Becky.
And today we're back in Edinburgh to see a famous castle. No, not that castle. We're off to Craigmillar Castle, and for the most part, the park surrounding it. And that's because we stumbled across some suspicious things when we were just on a wee walk one day. Anyway, Craigmillar Castle, as I said, is located in Edinburgh, here on the map of Scotland. And this is a map of the park, Craigmillar Castle Park, that we'll be exploring in this video. As I said at the start, we stumbled across some suspicious things, and that was when we were visiting this area here, known as Bockhill Woods. Kicking off with a rare glimpse of the sun in Scotland. Here we are making our way to those woods. Now I should mention that throughout this segment I'm going to be switching between footage from the visit with myself and Becky and just when I went back by myself. And that's what we're looking at here. First thing to mention is this Bockhill Wood is actually on a hill, just as the name suggests. And you know, that does make me wonder, but let's get a look around. Also, you might have noticed the tyre tracks there. That's because this area gets used a lot as a dirt track now for bikes. Anyway, I think it's interesting that it's raised like that, and it does lend some credence to the theory that this could be some sort of old, damaged and buried structure. But hold on, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let me show you what we found, and please share your thoughts in the comments. As I mentioned, I will be switching footage between two separate visits to this area. Also, apologies for some of the shaky cam on this one, I did try my best. Anyway, what do you reckon this could be? Is this natural? Is this quarried stone? Because there is quarried in the area. Or could this be the remains of a structure? Some parts really make me think it could be, and I'll point some of those out in just a second. But first, I did see this and reckoned it must be something more modern. I thought it did look pretty interesting. So I thought I'd just film it anyway. But really it was the stuff behind it that caught my eye. Check it out. Now, we actually saw quite a few of these in this particular area. Clearly the stone has been manipulated in some way. Now, like most of this park, it is claimed that this area was quarried. Indeed, it is said that this particular area, Bockhill Wood, provided stone for Edinburgh's south side villas in the 1920s, as well as some other buildings such as the Reed Memorial Church and the Fairmile Head Church. Now, I've got no doubt people have been using stone from these areas for years, but could this stone, at least some of it, be coming from old world structures? Kinda like how Paul Cook's mentioned it in the past. Certainly these holes may be from quarrying techniques, old ones, and there may be nothing else other than that. However, I still find them fascinating, as I don't really think they look like they've been drilled or anything like that. I could be wrong, and it doesn't dismiss some of the other stuff we see later on in this video as well. So stick around for that. For now though, let's finish exploring this area before moving on to check out the rest of the park. So what do you think made these holes? Were they formed in it as part of the stone? Or are they drilled in it as part of the quarrying technique? Or could there be something else? Please do share your thoughts as always. Personally, I'm still undecided on those ones, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were formed in it as some sort of geopolymer of some sort of old structure that we really don't understand. And as you'll see now, we also noticed some holes that didn't go right down into the rock, but they actually stopped just a shallow bit down. Just some more interesting points we wanted to show. And here's another one in the same area. I'm not sure what these could be for, but we've seen things like this before when visiting other sites in Scotland. It's hard to make out any apparent tool marks, and it all seems very smooth, to me anyway. So, I continued on exploring the area, and I was sad to see all these dead plants. I think that's because we had such heavy rain just recently before this. A wee bit of wildlife. Right, buddy? Anyway, looking around, these were some of the other things we saw before it was time to move on. There you go, just a wee bit more wildlife, because it wouldn't be a Spookies video without it. And here is some more glimpses at that strange rock, probably just from the quarry, if we're going by what we're told. But I wanted to share it anyway.
Look at the wee spider. The whole thing this guy's created.
Oh, a wee bit wildlife.
I want to almost take the leaf off, but then I know it'll probably destroy his web.
Where is he?
Oh, shit. He's like just underneath your hammock.
Oh yeah.
This big hammock he's created.
Really is a wee bit wildlife. Now here we are on top of Hawkhill Wood, and you can really see how high up it actually is. That's the slope, of course, that we were looking up from below earlier on. And there's still these strange points peeking through the ground. I mean, look at this stuff. Is it just a quarry like they tell us? Or could there have been something else here at one point? What do you reckon? There's our final glimpse at where we started. But this place did encourage me to then look around the rest of the park and see if we found anything else. So if you want to see what we did find, stick around please. First though, get a look at this, what Becky found in the area. An almost wee bit wildlife. Well, to be fair, I think we were a wee bit late for this one. Rest in peace, little buddy. So here's some final snaps from Hawkhill Wood, because we're now about to move on to the rest of Craigmillar Castle Park. All in all, I think it's likely that most of these marks are from old quarries, with the holes seemingly drill marks from an old technique. And I thought that was possible because, you know, I'd read this on Wikipedia. It was talking about an old quarrying technique, actually in Edinburgh. It speaks of drilled holes, elongated holes, and powder used to blast the stone. And it was generally to bring down stone to be used for rubble work, which coincidentally is exactly what it said this area was used for. I wondered whether this might have been what we're seeing the marks of. Could this be something completely different altogether? What do you reckon? Personally, I'm not 100% sure that is what we're seeing, especially since it says here that it wasn't preferred to use this method on sandstone. However, I did think it was worth mentioning as a likely possibility. Anyway, back to these final photos of the area before we move on. And that last one is just a strange rounded stone that we found while leaving Hawkhill Wood. And I really wanted to include it because look at it, I thought that was quite a unique looking one. Anyway, that is us done at Hawkhill Wood, and now we're going to explore the rest of Craigmillar Castle Park. And we'll also get a wee look at the castle later on, so if you're interested in that, stick around. If we just have another quick look at this map, you'll see where we'd just been, Hawkhill Wood. And I also wanted to point out a couple of other interesting features of this park. If you look down here, you'll see there's a recycling centre. We'll get a glimpse at that later on. I believe that was one of the main quarries. You'll see Craigmillar Castle, of course. We'll be wandering around inside there later in this video. And then you've got all these patches of trees spread around the place. These are where we'll be exploring for a lot of this video. And just to give a better idea of what I'm talking about, you'll see the patches of trees here as we send up the Spookies drone to get a look around. Here we are up in the sky, and you'll see Craigmillar Castle ahead of us. If we pan round, you'll see the trees that I'm talking about spread about. But you also see this. Right ahead, you'll see that big mountain looking thing. That's Arthur's Seat. It's said to be an extinct volcano and it stands right bang in the middle of Edinburgh. And you get these amazing views on it, as seen in our Old World Edinburgh 2 video. So check out if you want to see some of that. And you know, it's things like this why I love Edinburgh so much. Imagine having this right in the middle of your city. Amazing. And if you follow where this hand is pointing, that's actually the Royal Mile. It goes all the way up to Edinburgh Castle standing at the end of it. And as I always say, we like to try and give the layout of the land and show what's going on in the area. So that's why I thought I would highlight some of that. Anyway, you'll see Craigmillar Castle here, and all these patches of trees that I've been talking about. And that's where we're going to get a real look around in and see what we can find. And just wait till you see what we did find. Some interesting stuff. Like before, I'll be switching between footage of a solo visit by myself and one with me and Becky. Speaking of Becky, there she is. And here we are right in front of the castle, as you'll see. And we found this little ditch. I had never noticed this before. And it looked like this could be one of the quarries that is mentioned. And look at this stuff. It certainly seems like it's been manipulated by people in some sort of way. What do you reckon? Could this just be part of the quarry? Could this actually be part of a structure? Again, I'm not so sure on this one. So please do let us know your thoughts on this and anything else that you see in this video. Here you can see the stone behind this tree. Just an interesting spot, right? Anyway, here's a look at some of the things I saw as we proceeded to the next spot. That one's proper Last of Us, right? So here's some more of that strange looking stone found further along in the area. When I first noticed this, it did make me think, could this be a structure? And then the more I read about the area, about the quarries, I started to think, is this just the remnants of that? I did think there were some interesting points in it that wanted a wee bit of a further look and made me think perhaps it wasn't as straightforward as just simply being quarries. But I think for the most part, that is what this is. And whether this was a structure that has been, dismantled and taken apart, used for its resources over time, or whether it is an actual rock that's been used for the same, I'm not sure. But as we'll come to, there are some spots in this part that really makes you wonder what it used to be like before we started interfering with it, however long ago that was. Anyway, taking a look at some of this stuff, you get some of these angles. I mean, it's clear there's been interfered with. The question is this from quarrying, or could this be part of an existing structure that we don't understand because it's so old, damaged and buried underground? What do you reckon? Well, there's only one thing for it really. Let's keep looking around. Look at how interesting it is in here. So flat. Some of the shapes are really incredible. I assume this is from the quarrying, but I just really don't know. Look how smooth some of the stone is. It's just incredible. I noticed this point here. It looked like this big chunk of rock on the right had come apart and fell down from the rest. Look at that. Quite interesting, isn't it? And who knew you got these hanging vines in Scotland? I certainly never. Pretty cool, eh? Anyway, there you have it. It looks like that big chunk of rock is just separated from the rest. I found the stone here especially interesting. I mean, look at all the wee stones and stuff in this one. And then when we pan round to the bit that we saw broken off just a second ago, it looks much more porous. Almost that cement-like look and texture to it, if you know what I mean. Like it's once been wet and then left to harden and dry, just like cement or concrete. The Craigmillar rock itself is described as a compact, pebbly quartzo sandstone, typically red to pale brown. It says that Craigmillar's been providing stone for the building of Craigmillar Castle from as early as the 14th century. It also says that it was actually used in the building of Palace of Holyrood and brought into town for the Parliament House, and even for work on Edinburgh Castle as well. Just shows you how everything's meant to be connected, right? It's also said that the Craigmillar stone was considered relatively impermeable, which led to its use in the construction of Edinburgh reservoirs and in the Leith docks, so it's said to be quite watertight. Anyway, we've still got lots to get through, so here's some final snaps of this spot, and then we're going to get a look at some of the others from round the park. How cool's that, right? I'm not sure what type of bird it actually is, but it looked so much bigger than all the other ones I had saw that day, and any other day in the park actually. If you know what type of bird this is, please put it in the comments, because I would actually love to know. Cheers. Now, you might recall that I said there was a recycling centre or rubbish dump in this park. We're right next to it now, and it really made me wonder if this was once used as a landfill, as I noticed there was so much rubbish overgrown under the earth here that what appeared to be a carpet there found all sorts sticking up, poking out the ground. There really was just bits and bobs everywhere around here. It's a shame to see. So naturally, being right next to one of the city dumps, I did wonder whether this was once used as a landfill. Speaking of the city dump, or recycling centre as it is known, here's a wee look at it from when we drove through it ourselves. You'll see that where this recycling centre is, it's just like a big void, a big empty hole that all this stone has been removed from. The question is this natural stone, or could it be from a structure, a really ancient one? And up there just through the fence where the finger's pointing, that's where I've been walking around, and that's where we're going back to right now. What a magnificent spot, right? And just look at those trees, amazing. And from one magnificent spot to another, this was one of my favourites in the area. It definitely looked to me like a quarry, but again it made me wonder, was this just from a natural rock face? Could this have been something else at one point? Check it out. Now I like this bit for a few reasons, one of which was this nice flat stone here. Just amazing, wasn't it? I did think this was probably a quarried area though, but what do you think? Please put your thoughts in the comments. Whatever it is, it's very intriguing, and there was a lot of similarities between this and other places we visited. Some reminded me of Edinburgh Castle and bits like that, but overall, I did think this was probably just a quarried area. That's not to say it couldn't have been something before though, but it was this next area that I really thought was intriguing. So there you go. What do you make of this spot? We're going to be spending a little minute here just to get a closer look. So please do share your thoughts about this spot in the comments. Looking up close at these, I thought these looked like 3 separate blocks. And what you can't see is, underneath the foliage, the block-like shapes actually continue along to the right. But I'll try and show that in a bit. Looking at the stone up front, it looks very porous and almost cement or concrete-like in places. And just to point out, you'll see this gap going down here between what I think are 2 separate blocks. You almost see this corrugated steel look to them, you know, the patterns and indentations within them. Could that be from something holding them in place, how they were formed? Or could it be from some sort of drill trying to take them apart? I'm unsure, but I did think this spot was very intriguing and looked like it could be something far older and perhaps some sort of ancient wall with massive blocks damaged and buried away. But that's just what I think it looks like, and it could be completely natural. What do you reckon? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below. Whatever's going on here, I find this spot fascinating, and I really do think it could be something. To me, there looks like there's several different blocks here of massive sizes, but here's some pictures to show you what I mean, and get a better look at them. Now what you can only just faintly make out in this picture is that there's actually separation lines going up here and here, and to me this makes it look like complete separate blocks on a wall, exposed through damage. What do you think? Am I just seeing things? Are these cracks? Could this really be something? Could this be something ancient, a really old structure? Looking at how flat and rigid those spots were just above it there, it made me think even more that perhaps this could be damaged structure. This could be actually a part that's been defaced and now looks like this, a shadow of its former self. Just another thought going through my head. Anyway, here you can see the line I was pointing out earlier on, where it's a clear separation between these 2 seemingly block-like shapes. I mean, they're not perfect blocks. They sort of fit in, like we would imagine would happen with GOP or geopolymer, similar to the polygonal sort of structures you see around the world, how they fit together nicely. And if you don't know what geopolymer is, I'll leave some links in the description so you can go and check it out. Paul Cook, Hidden History, does a great job explaining that stuff, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even know what it was. But in a nutshell, geopolymer is basically like cement, except it would form into stone. So you would get sandstone in a liquid form, and like cement, you would use it to make blocks or structures that would then solidify in a solid form, just like concrete and cement. In many ways, except harder, more robust, and able to stand the test of time. That's the concept very briefly anyway, and it's not as far-fetched as you might think, with people like Paul Cook even managing to recreate their own. Anyway, let's get another look at this interesting area. It really is just like something out of Tomb Raider, isn't it? Some old ruin covered in leaves and foliage. At least that's the way I see it. I see it as these humongous blocks placed upon each other, building some sort of strange wall. We'll be back to this area for a future video, but for now, here's some final pictures before we get moving on. Very quickly before doing that though, I just want to point out what my imagination thinks could be going on here. I think these are massive blocks, perhaps geopolymer, and I think that this is some sort of rendering that's been put over the top of them all. Some sort of finish, you know, like plaster, or something like that. Except this stuff is stone. I could be entirely wrong, but it sounds similar to some of the things Paul Cook talks about, and I just wonder, could this be? Please share your thoughts on it in the comments. Just before we do move on though, just wanted to check out this little bit here. This was just at the edge of it. I thought it was intriguing, the way that it just slivered into the ground there. Here's a wee close up, but we are going to get making our way to the next spot now. So here we are arriving at the next area of the park. What do you make of this one? Some interesting shapes again, peeking out of the ground. And look how tall some of these rocks go. It really made me wonder, but I wasn't sure about this one. Don't get me wrong. Personally, I think this could well be part of an old ancient structure. The same one possibly as the last spot we were looking at. Possibly buried beneath this entire park and the castle itself. However, it wasn't as in your face as the last place that we just were, but there was still some really interesting stuff going on here. Such as this wee bit behind the tree. I'm well aware this is likely just marks from the quarrying though, as this place more than likely was included in that quarrying. The question still remains though, was it something else before that? Also, as you can see, this area gets used as a hangout zone by the locals today. Pretty cool area to hang out with your pals, I think. Anyway, here's a close-up look at that stuff, and you can see what I mean. It just reminds me of cement, you know, the way it dries and it's that wet look. All the wee pores and that appearing, and then it dries like that. If you've worked with cement and plaster and things like that, you'll kind of know what I mean. A lot of the rock here looked like that, and it reminded me of Danino Den at parts and some of the other places we've seen on the channel. For the most part though, this place wasn't as in your face as I said, as the last one. So, I thought I'd better get a move on and see what else we could find in the park. For now though, check out some of these interesting spots we noticed in the nearby area. Apologies for the shaky cam again on some of these bits. Cool tree. And here's one of those things I saw. Now I didn't remember this until I started going through the footage, and looking at it, it's really intriguing, isn't it? I'm going to try and get back to this spot when we revisit the other one, so stick around on the channel for that. I also wanted to show these interesting spots that were just next to it. Some holes there reminding me of parts of Roslin Glen, and even the Geggan, and down at Bilstein, with the way that it's been formed there. What do you think? Could these just be natural? Are they from the quarrying? Or could these be something else? Remains of a really old structure? Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and check out these final views from this little spot, because now we're about to make our way to the next area of the park.
Look, someone scratched the tree.
Anyway, here we are arriving at the next area of the park that I wanted to show. There's some really interesting spots here, bits that really look like blocks, to me anyway, so I'm really keen to hear people's thoughts in the comments. So looking at this bit for example, I think these look like blocks. You'll see one here and one there. And then when we look around, you'll see some more appearing, in my opinion, in a way. So getting a close look at it, I noticed these are filled with lots of stones, aggregates and things. Thought that orange one poking out was interesting, and that's actually a solid stone. Just wanted to show that off, because I think it's really interesting. But these to me, as I said, look like blocks, and this was not the only part. And if you actually look at the makeup of the blocks, it's very similar to the spot we saw earlier on. Could these be the same? Could they be an old ancient style of building structures? Or is this something more modern? Maybe built from the war times? Maybe it's just some sort of support for the land or something, made of some sort of old concrete. I should mention that we didn't see any structures on any of the old maps that we looked at. Apart from one, that is. One that we'll see in a wee moment. So, I did find it intriguing. And so I really do wonder, what could it be? Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling on and we're going to get a look at a really nearby spot that looked even more suspicious, even more like blocks.
Just see the angles. There's no...
Get a look at this, right? I mean, I can't see this as anything else except two fabricated blocks placed on top of each other at what looks like the corner of some sort of structure. Is this something of more modern times, forgotten and lost and overgrown already? Or is this something really old? What do you think?
Right. We'll go down to check out that wee hut is.
Yeah.
Now, just as we were about to make our way down to some old ruins of a more modern building that's down in this area, Becky noticed this, some more angles poking up of which looked like even more blocks in the area. As I said earlier, there'll be more videos coming from this area, as well as others from around Scotland of course, so stick with us on the channel if you're interested to see.
It's like an old modern building. Still bits it standing. I wonder what this was for, eh?
So here's some snaps of this ruin, and I did try my best to find out what it used to be, but I actually couldn't find out what it was. So if you do know, please put that in the comments, it'd be much appreciated. I'll keep trying to find out for next time. In the meantime, here's an image I did find on an old map dated between 1948 and 1973. It shows a bird's eye outline of the building and where it used to stand. Interesting, right? Anyway, we're going to keep moving on.
Some people must. You see, for the camera?
Here's just another interesting spot that I thought we'd include. What do you think? As you'll probably have noticed, most of this footage is from my visit with Becky, but we really were starting to run out of time now. So, I thought we'd press on and have a quick look around this area, and here's some of the final things that we saw.
You alright, Bex? Crazy.
So, we really were just about done for this visit. As I said though, we come back to check out the castle, so hang around. For now, here's some final interesting spots that we saw as we made our way out of the park.
Ugh. Someone's wrote something in red paint. Or blood. That's incredible, eh? Anyway, let's go.
So there it is, Craigmillar Castle, and now we're going to go and visit it and get a look on the inside. Of course, we couldn't do a video on Craigmillar Castle Park and not show the castle. So here we go, we're going to have a walk through and just show some of the more interesting points that we saw as we explore it. So please join us. And here's just one of those wee points, at least that I find interesting, where it seems to be standing on the actual bedrock or the stone beneath the earth. Anyway, here's Becky for a wee bit about the castle.
This is Craigmillar Castle. Although most of you will know it for its appearance on the hit show Outlander, the castle is probably most famous for its links with Mary Queen of Scots. She is said to have stayed here from the 20th of November to the 7th of December in 1566 to recover from her illness after the birth of her son James VI. Craigmillar Castle is said to be one of the best preserved medieval castles with many features still intact. According to Wikipedia, the Preston family began building the castle in the late 14th century, with building works continuing through the 15th and 16th centuries. After its later owners, the Gilmores, left, the castle fell into ruin and was later picked up by Historic Scotland, who maintain and care for the castle today.
That's cool.
So there you have it, a wee bit info about Craigmillar Castle. And we're going to have a look on the inside in just a moment, but first let's check out each side of the castle, because we've got these lovely garden areas. I love that in amongst all these smaller stones, you still find these big massive ones. That's cool, right? And this is the famous pea-shaped pond that was meant to have been there once upon a time, so they say. And if you're regular here, you'll know I can't resist a wee bit wildlife, even if it is just a wee pigeon. So here we are making our way around to the eastern side of the castle to check out this small garden area in here. I'm calling them garden areas, though I'm well aware they likely weren't always that way. They do a really good job here in making it look nice and cutting the grass in these shapes, so good on them for that. If we look down here, you can actually see the natural rock of the area that the castle seemingly built upon. I got some views of the same spot when I was walking around the castle myself. It really made me intrigued, and it made me wonder whether the castle was built on something. Could this whole park be some sort of structure, or is it just a mountain being covered with earth and grass? What do you think? Anyway, back to the castle. Now it's almost time to head inside the main castle grounds, but here's some snaps from out in this area. And if you look straight ahead, that's Arthur's Seat, the extinct volcano from the start of the video. As I said though, we're going to go inside the main castle grounds now, so please join us. and leave your thoughts on anything that you see in this video in the comments. Cheers!
Cool tree. Wee hole.
The daily bread. Is that the bread oven now? Pizza oven. The pizza oven. What's this? Is this just rock, or is it like been cemented over or something? Cool, eh? Interesting. What's in here? The prison.
Somebody's left us ducks everywhere.
Must have been an Easter thing. What do you think? You got a wee window and a wee toilet. You'd be tempted to escape through that somehow. Hey.
Cellar as in wine cellar?
Strange floor, eh? It's like a road. Or right. Or up. Let's go in here. Yeah. Looks fancy in here. If you saw our video on Van Glass, you may remember this little book by Richard Pocock, an English-born churchman, traveller and writer, as described by Wikipedia. This book is basically a compilation of letters that he wrote on his tours of Scotland back from the 1700s. He makes mention of Craigmillar Castle on his 1760 trip. He says, "I passed to the east of the lake and went a mile to Craigmillar, a castle finely situated on a rock. There are several additions to the old castle. It belongs to the Prestons, and under their arms is a rebus, press and a tun. From the quarry here, the town is supplied with rough stones, and between the beds is a stratum of a sort of red marl, about a foot thick." How interesting is that, right? Someone that was actually here all the way back in the 1700s, who actually saw the quarries in use. Just fascinating. There they are. There we go. What fantastic views you get up here, right? And here we are looking over to the city of Edinburgh itself. You can see the Edinburgh Castle there way in the distance. As I said earlier on, coming down from Edinburgh Castle is the Royal Mile, which flows from it all the way to the right there. Until eventually we reach Arthur's Seat here. You can see the Salisbury Crag up on the left of it. The fun wee bit info, and something I always remember as a child, is that a lot of people say Arthur's Seat looks like a sitting lion from a particular angle. I think so, and it's something I always remember. Anyway, right now we're looking out onto the Portobello area of Edinburgh. That's where the seaside and the beach is, and then out across to East Lothian. And that's of course where Bilsdane is, where the Geggan is, and a lot of places that we visited for our videos in the past. So yeah, quite amazing views from up here, right?
So it's once upon a time we'd have had a roof on it. Check the fireplace. Oh, we're doing well at this, eh? Wildlife.
And I just thought this was nice to see some pigeons just chilling out, taking a wee break on Craigmillar Castle. And here are our very final sights from the castle itself, before, sadly, we have to move on.
Sorry, I didn't hit the button.
And here's Becky next to the fireplace for size comparison. Pretty impressive, right?
There we go.
There we go indeed. That's it from Craigmillar Castle. Please leave your thoughts on it below in the comment section. What do you think about it? Is it built on something old? Or is this just an old rock like it's said to be? Whatever it is a pretty cool place, isn't it? I absolutely love this area of Edinburgh. So to say cheerio, we share a wee bit final wildlife today. So what do you think about this area? Please do share your thoughts. And if you like this video, maybe give it a wee like.
Or maybe subscribe to see more.
And I wanted to take this moment as well to say hello and thanks to all the new subscribers that joined us from the last video about the pyramid. We genuinely have some good stuff on the way and we hope you enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for joining us again. Hopefully see you next time and cheerio.